Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
I try to be a good man, but life keeps beating me down. I never understood
Check,
that.
check, check 1, 2, chat.
People think I'm riding high, but I feel so low. I try to be a good man, but life keeps beating me down.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is November 11th, 2025. It is a beautiful, cold Dallas, Texas, man. We have a fantastic show set up for you today. You know what? Just for my OCD, we're going to tweak the camera a little bit. There we go. There we go. But let's get loose. Let's get excited. I'm telling you what, I have been so excited for this show all day, because we have a jam-packed show prepared for you. We're going to talk about some Heisman conversations. We're going to be talking about Texas and Georgia, and we may have to make an apology for some preseason takes that have not turned out to go in my favor, and we will be talking about Oklahoma and Bama. I got my sugar-free bowl of red Fuji apple and ginger. Give it like a 5 out of 10. I'm usually a big apple guy when it comes to like carbonated drinks. I really wanted coffee, but did not go to the grocery store. Had a lapse in judgment in making a decision on whether or not I needed to get more coffee. Did not get more coffee, and then it burned me later in the day. So we're stuck with a little Fuji apple and ginger action. Let's start talking about the Heisman. Let's save your time. Real quick introductions before we dive into today's show. This is the Stadium Pulse. My name is Tegan Randolph. If you want to see any college football content from me or additional stuff, check out this page. The Stadium Pulse is going to present a ton of college football content. If you love TikTok and short form content, there's stuff on that for here, but there's also going to be stuff on the handle that is ticking down below, free of access. All it takes is a quick type of your thumbs, and all of a sudden you get more college football content. I'm not asking for no debit or credit. I'm asking just for a little bit of your time, which you could argue is more valuable than your money. And so that's why I really do appreciate any time that you give to look at my content that I try to make as best for you guys. This is all powered by Crutchman Media, who do fantastic work, a media company still in its infancy to get better every single day. Let's talk about the Heisman. As we're 3 minutes in today's show, let's take a little action of this Fuji apple. Like I said, 5 out of 10. There has been an entity in college football that is one of the most powerful in America. It could move mountains. It could change the tide if they wanted to. It could present the facts that aliens are real. The motion that Texas A&M Twitter has. Butchered that intro. We're going to restart that for the intro. For the editor's sake, we're going to restart that. There's an entity in North America that could move mountains. They could change the tides if they want to. They are Area 51 level of movement. They have enough motion to change the aspect of college football for the rest of time. That is Texas A&M Twitter. Texas A&M Twitter is on fire, following the Aggies going 9-0, beating Missouri on the road. And you may ask, why am I talking about this? We have Heisman conversations to talk about. Well, frankly, it is Heisman conversations with Texas A&M Twitter, as they have taken over the college football space with one simple word: chance. And as someone that has the heartbeat of college football and understands Texas A&M to its fullest capabilities, I implore you, just watch the first 5 minutes of Texas A&M versus South Carolina, and it might be the loudest you've ever seen Kyle Field, because they are going to be chanting Marcel Reed. there is a movement for Marcel Reed to be the Heisman winner. And as someone that is supposed to be the heartbeat of college football and understand the ins and outs of being a fan of college football, let's see if there's any validity to what people are trying to say for Marcel Reed. So let's be an investigator. Let's Sherlock Holmes it. Let's understand, is there any truth, or is this pure delusion from the A&M faithful? So what I've done is just get the total yardage and touchdowns and turnovers and completion percentage and record. Keep it very simple to understand the different candidates and why a certain player could be ahead of the other. So for Marcel Reed, we're looking at 2,571 total yards, 25 total touchdowns, 6 turnovers, 62.3 completion percentage, and a 9-0 record. That seems like a pretty damn good Heisman case if we were talking, a quarterback leading a team, the number 3 team in the country. You can make an argument the number 2 team in the country. I would make that argument. We look at Ty Simpson. A lot of people want to talk about Ty Simpson, the Alabama quarterback, and understandably so. 2,548 passing yards, a little bit on the ground, 23 total touchdowns, 1 total interception, 66.9 completion percentage, and an 8-1 record. Obviously, the Florida State loss does have a small mark against his Heisman campaign, but because it was the week 1 loss, as we get further and further into the college football season, which, by the way, I want to make a point. Most of these teams are, or all of them actually, are all national title contenders. If you are a national title contender, it's important for you to know as a fan that you may feel like you're at the end of the season. You may feel like you're at the end of the rope, but if anything, you just hit the second half. I'm not even kidding when I say that. Right now, week 2 of November, that is the midpoint between week 1 of college football and the national championship. Let that sink in. Understand that for a second. So not in terms of the Heisman race, but if you're a fan of one of these teams, it's important to note. Julian Sains, obviously one that Ohio State fans have been very loud should win the Heisman. 2,512 total yards, 24 total touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And the crazy stat that a lot of people are going to hold their hats on to, 80.9 completion percentage, projected to beat the completion percentage record in a single season in all of NCAA history, a 9-0 record for obvious reasons. It's Ohio State. And the last one we will mention, which I could make a fair argument statistically, has the best out of all 4 of these quarterbacks, 2,582 total yards, 31 total touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 71.3 completion percentage, and a 10-0 record. It's important to note he has played 1 more game in over all 3 of those guys. And before we dive into these guys and who I would have as the Heisman, because that's the point of the topic today, obviously, updated Heisman predictions. You clicked on the video, you understand this. We have to shout out 2 guys. We have to shout out 2 honorable mentions, because if the Heisman was up to me and I understood what the Heisman really meant, and it didn't just have to be the best quarterback on the best team 9 times out of 10, if the Heisman was up to me, because these are Heisman predictions, but if it was in my complete control, we're talking Haynes King and we're taking Jacob Rodriguez, and they're both getting invites to New York. Frankly, I probably would move it out of New York just because it doesn't really feel like college football, but tradition is tradition. I respect that. Jacob Rodriguez is the heartbeat of Texas Tech football. He's the closest to the Heisman race for a linebacker that I've seen since like Manti Te'o. And his story is incredible. I implore you, every single time we talk about J-Rod or Jacob Rodriguez, go look up his story in Texas Tech. I mean, he is the face of the franchise. I get it. He's on the defensive side of the ball. But we're talking about a player that should be getting more Heisman conversations. And then when we look at Haynes King, talk about the heartbeat of a team, where would Georgia Tech be without the resilient fight that is Haynes King? I mean, he puts his body on the line every single game and wills them to wins, wills them to ways that they can find a way to win. I mean, this is a guy that you could talk and maybe put in the conversation in terms of grit and fight to a level of a Tim Tebow. But because he's at Georgia Tech and because their defense is not good enough and they're not a definitive college football playoff top 10 team, not enough people are going to talk about him. But let's talk about the actual contenders here. Who do we believe should win the Heisman here at the Stadium Pulse? Who do we believe is going to win the Heisman? Because who I want is like Jacob Rodriguez and Haynes King. But we got to make a prediction that is within the world of college football in 2025 and what the Heisman has always been, which is usually a quarterback award out of what we saw last year, which was a wide receiver corner combo winning it, going against a group of 5 running back, which was an incredible race. I'm not trying to discredit that. You get anomalies in any kind of award system, but this year is going to be a quarterback of some kind. Let me make the case for Marcel Reed, because I understand Ty Simpson. They don't have a running game. They're 8-1. They went on an incredible 4-game win streak. Well, they've been on an 8-game win streak, to be clear, but they have gone on a 4-win streak against 4 ranked teams. It was, I believe, on the road against Missouri, on the road against Georgia, at home against Vanderbilt, and then at home against, I'm blanking on it. I lost it. No, Tennessee. All of them being ranked. Not in that order, by the way. And Ty Simpson is their entire offense. So I understand that. 23 total touchdowns. His production has declined a little bit. His production hasn't been at the highest level as what we originally was seeing it during that stretch. But when you watch Alabama games, you know it is on Ty Simpson. Frankly, he was this close on a lot of different passes against LSU that could have bumped his numbers, but he only had 1 passing touchdown, had a ton of yards. It wasn't like a Heisman signature moment, and you definitely feel like some of the momentum for him has slowed down over the past couple of weeks. Julian Sayin. Julian Sayin's Heisman opportunity is right there. It's clear as day. You beat the passing record in terms of passing completion percentage for all of FBS. That's quite impressive. Regardless if we talk about having Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and a relatively easy schedule, for a first-year starter to walk in and be able to be that efficient, having more passing touchdowns and completions in some games, like, that's outright impressive. I'm not even going to try to fight that battle to discredit that, because that's not what we do. We call a spade a spade. That is impressive. And he has a very clear path. If he walks into the big house, beats Michigan for the first time in, 3 or 4 years, and dominates, puts up like 250, maybe 3 passing touchdowns, because frankly, with how difficult that environment's going to be, that's going to be highly impressive. That's going to be the stamp at the end of the year. And maybe, I believe, depending on how some of the voters are going to be waiting for it, if I'm remembering correct, you have the conference championship performance against Indiana as well. That's going to be enough momentum for him to win it. So I think he is set up for an incredible last-minute run. And then we have Fernando Mendoza, who had a signature moment, but also put him in that moment for Penn State, where he had the incredible throw to Omar Cooper. I mean, just the most ridiculous throw you've ever seen in your entire life. Just absolutely R-rated, disgusting. Cover your children's eyes. It was disgusting. But to be fair, he was the one that put Indiana in that position, but he was also the one that won Indiana that game on that incredible drive where he just threw NFL ball, NFL ball, NFL ball. I mean, he's an incredible prospect. But then we go into week 12. We have Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed. You're going to hear it. You're going to hear those chants. Those videos on Twitter are going to come out. The Gingerbread Man. Such a disgusting nickname. We're talking R-rated with that Omar Cooper catch. Gingerbread Man. Can't catch the Gingerbread Man from Marcel Reed. We got the momentum, because as someone that is a fan of Marcel Reed, I'm fully understanding that you need the momentum online as much as you need the momentum on the field. And for him to get the nickname of the Gingerbread Man, you're starting to have the chance, the movement, and the weight of Texas A&M Twitter, which I'm bringing back to the front of the table, because you need to understand the weight that this Twitter verse can hold around. I mean, they got Mark Stoops fired from Texas A&M. That's how powerful this group can be. And so when we look at Marcel Reed, he's going to be second in total yards. Obviously, Mendoza is going to carry a ton of weight in terms of the yardage and the counting numbers, because he's played one more game. He's second in terms of total touchdowns across the 4. He definitely leads in interceptions, which, call a spade spade, that's not great. He's going to be last in completion percentage, and he's got a 9-0 record. He also has the most ranked road wins: Notre Dame, Missouri, LSU. And the impact that he has had, the growth from the offense from the year prior to this one, cannot be understated. Marcel Reed's development is something that needs to be talked about on a weekly basis. Frankly, that Missouri game was remarkable. It was incredible to watch because we're watching a quarterback who everyone all summer says, well, he's a running back. He's just going to be able to run the ball. It's only going to be simple concepts. That's all he's going to be able to do. And I'm watching a quarterback check at the line, go to a screen, which I understand is a simple play, but he checked out of it because he saw what the defense was doing. That's what a true quarterback does. And he's dicing up a zone defense where you have to be mature and wait for things to open up or anticipate them to open up. This was a quarterback growing in front of our very eyes. And he wasn't a guy that had to run and scramble every 3 plays to try to create something, although he is the gingerbread man. Marcel Reed's getting my vote. Now, the season's not over. And like Julian's saying, Ty Simpson included, this is where I get a little worried for Mendoza to finish the year, is what opportunity are you going to have on a national stage to stamp your Heisman opportunity? You're going to have Ty Simpson, who unfortunately is going to be facing Auburn on the road. That's still an opportunity, but when you compare it to on the road for Michigan and then Texas A&M traveling to Texas, those 2 opportunities are going to take precedence just with the context of the 2025 season. And I think this race is going to come down to Julian Sayin and Marcel Reed. And Marcel Reed, if they finish the season 12-0, and he's playing well while doing it against a very difficult Texas offense or Texas defense, better said, he could have an opportunity here, guys. I'm taking my claim right now. I'm planting my flag. Marcel Reed's going to be the Heisman because I think he has earned that trust at this point. I'm done with the battered Aggie syndrome. I'm done with it. I trust Mike Elko. I trust Marcel Reed. Trust is hard to come by in college football. I trust these guys to step up. I don't know if I trust Ohio State on the road against Michigan because I thought I trusted them last year, and they failed me time and time again. Ty Simpson, great quarterback. I think he's going to be a good NFL guy. He's going to have an opportunity, and who knows, maybe at the end of the year, we just hand it to him because maybe Sayin doesn't play well against Michigan, and maybe he doesn't play well against Indiana, and then Texas A&M doesn't play well at the end of the year against Texas. We just have to give it to somebody so it goes to Mendoza or Ty Simpson. And I think if we were ending the season a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, it would have just gone to Ty Simpson. It would have just gone to Mendoza. But I'm thinking, who has the opportunity to finish the year? And I'm picking Marcel Reed to win the Heisman. Okay. Fuji apple's growing on me. It's official. It's growing on me. Man, sometimes as someone that is an energy drink connoisseur, you have to finish the whole thing to give a fair review. You can't just take one sip. That's unfair. The Stadium Pulse game of the week. Number 11, Texas travels to Athens at night, 6:30. Number 5 team in the country, UGA. And I got some stats to set the stage because I think these are going to be the key stats that if we saw the box score at the end of the game, we're going to know who won this game based on the results. Can you flip the negatives into a positive on a one-night special? Can you continue the momentum in your strengths? Third down offense. We have Texas 67th in the country going against the 19th best offense in the entire country on third down. But Texas on the other side, 23rd on defense on third down, while Georgia's 82nd in third down on defense. Explosive play percentage or explosive play offense and defense, 20 plus yards. Texas is 85th in the country on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, they're 26th. Georgia is 51st on the offensive side of the ball. Georgia is 13th in defensive conversion for explosive plays. So what does this mean? Because we have strength on strength with the third down offense being really good for Georgia and the defense being really good for Texas. And then we have bad on bad. Third down offense being really bad for Texas. Third down defense being really bad for Georgia. And then we also have a bad explosive play offense going against a good explosive play defense. And then we have a bad explosive play offense going against a good explosive play defense. Frankly, this team and these matchups are really difficult to project. So I asked a couple of questions to help me get to a prediction because frankly, when I clicked record today, I didn't know where to go with Georgia and Texas. I frankly don't know where I'm going to go with this prediction because it's quite difficult to figure out what is going to flip the script in these games. So the first thing I wrote down was who is going to get to a fast start. Georgia, outside of the Mississippi State game, every single week starts out terrible in the first 3 quarters, turns it on in the fourth. What I worry about if we get that game script is the way that Texas loves to play their games, or at least what we saw in 2024. And frankly, we haven't seen them really do it outside of maybe the Vanderbilt game. And even in the Vanderbilt game, they climbed their way back. Is Texas loves to work with a lead. Most teams do. But really, Texas, with their defense, they want you to be trying to force the issue against a defense that has Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Muhammad on the outside, like all these different playmakers. They want you to force the issue on this defense. So if Texas gets to a super fast start, they want to see if Mike Bobo and crew and Gunnar Stockton really have to drop back to pass every single time and become non-multiple, very much a one type of offense, passing the ball on 3rd and long. That's what they want. But if Georgia, very similar to last year in the first matchup between Texas and Georgia, if Georgia gets off to a fast start, do you believe that this Texas offense can climb their way back into it? We saw it against Mississippi State where they were able to climb back into it. They've been able to win an ugly game against Kentucky. We can use those games to discredit them in terms of a resume, but in terms of finding ways to win, call a spade, Texas is finding ways to win. The next question I ask is who's going to create the explosive plays? I'm not saying they need 6 20-yard passes down the field. I'm not saying that. I'm saying who is going to make enough of those plays? Is it going to be a Zachariah Branch screen for 25-plus yards to put you in a field goal range to win the game? Is it going to be a Ryan Wingo screen pass that ends up breaking the game open in the first quarter for a 60-yard touchdown? Texas is off and running. That's something I want to know going into this game. And then I question the secondaries on both of these teams. Texas gets Mississippi State. That secondary didn't look great. Florida, secondary didn't look great. Time and time again, even Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia had, I believe, a career high in passing yards. Sure, they were working behind a lead. Diego Pavia had a career high in passing yards. The Texas secondary is a question mark going into this game, just as much as a Georgia secondary. Every single time I find a plus for Texas, I find a negative for Texas. Every time I find a plus for Georgia, I find a negative. This is going to be a dogfight. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Texas on the road has struggled. They have not been a great road team as of late. I thought they earned a little bit more credit, a couple months ago when I talked about them going on the road and beating Michigan, them going on the road and beating Alabama. But as we've seen, they are a different road team at this point. I can't argue with the data. And so I begin to ask the questions as we get deeper and deeper into the analytics and the advanced stats and some of the narratives going into this game, because Georgia doesn't need this game to make the college football playoff. They're at the tail end of their conference play. They'll go play Georgia Tech to finish the year. If they win this, they'll be in a pretty good position to at least try to find a way into the SEC championship. But I think even if they were to lose this one, get the job done against a Georgia Tech team, they could still make the college football playoff pretty comfortably. They don't need it. Texas, at the bare minimum, needs this to be a close game. They cannot afford this to be a blowout. They need this to be a one-score game or win it. And they are in a make-or-break spot into their season. I then asked the question, let's simplify this game. Who's got the better head coach? Okay, Kirby Smart's better than Sarkisian. Don't really need to argue that. Who is the better quarterback? More talented quarterback is Arch Manning, who has been playing better. But Gunnar Stockton's been the better quarterback all year. The better rushing attack, Georgia. The more dynamic passing attack. As of late, it looks like Texas, ever since, I believe, that third quarter in Mississippi State, they've been able to put up points pretty easily. Now, they have faced a couple of teams that have not been able to tackle on the outside. And I do really wonder, with the secondary of Georgia, it isn't really the coverage ability that I'm as worried about. Can you tackle on the outside? Because what Georgia's going to try to do is limit a lot of the explosives, in which you're going to see Sarkisian try to attack the underneath. What I worry about for Sarkisian in this sense is I don't know if he's going to adjust. He had 2 attempts against Georgia last year with Quinn Ewers in that offense, obviously with Matthew Golden and all this. And they faced off against Gunnar one time because they faced off against Carson Beck the first time. Now you have your third chance on the road at night, hostile environment, obviously different teams. What are you going to change? Because I don't think he changed too much in terms of the play calling when he got to face off against Ohio State on the second leg of their back-to-back matchups. Obviously, a massive gap of time in between two different teams. Understand that. But is there going to be a massive adjustment to what Sarkisian does to try to attack this Kirby Smart defense? Because I don't think you're going to be able to get those screen passes to Wingo for 75 yards. This Georgia offense will not allow for you to create these major explosives. That depends on how fast they start. This is, like I've said, and as I've even talked about it, a very difficult game to talk about. A very difficult game to talk about. Every single time I find a way to potentially pick Texas, I think of a stat that could just absolutely throw a wrench into their plans, a wrench to their knee. If you can't dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Dodgeball. I'm going to pick Texas to win this game. I think Texas wins this game close. It doesn't make sense. And frankly, you want to know my honest to God prediction and why I'm doing what I'm doing? I don't care if I'm being so open about it, because more times than not, this is going to be a non-biased show. You see this right here? This didn't help it. There we go. You see this? Probably can't hear it too well because you have to just eat this entire microphone. I hope I'm jinxing Texas. I don't think they've played this year like they deserve to make the college football playoff. So I'm going to pick Texas in hopes that I'm wrong. And guess what? If I'm right, I will act like this was my entire prediction and definitely did not have any kind of biases involved whatsoever. So I think Texas starts out fast. I think Georgia, that was a one-time thing on Mississippi State. And I think Texas starts out fast on the road and they find a way to win. I feel horrible about it. But if I get it right, you will see a victory lap. It's time to make an apology. Apology to everyone. There was a take in the preseason that I was outright wrong. Let's formalize this a little bit more. The Ohio State Buckeyes, I was wrong. I was dead wrong about this team. I want to make a sincere apology from the bottom of my heart. I did it on TikTok. I did it on my own YouTube page. I said, even on this channel, my baby, the Stadium Pulse, I said the Ohio State Buckeyes were not going to win a national championship this year. I went as far as to say there was zero chance that they could go back to back. I was wrong. Like I said at the top of the hour, I said, this is the midway point of the season. This is the middle of the season if you're a national championship contender. In a sense that you, from week one to the national championship, this is the middle. As crazy as it may seem, second week of November. And let me explain my take a little bit. So yes, you had, let's look at the ingredients first before we try to cook up any kind of apology, or at least the perspective of why I cured up this take. So I'm looking at the Ohio State roster following their national championship season, and I'm seeing so many talented players leave the building. Trevion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Will Howard, not even Chris Olave, apologies, Emeka Ibuka, same type of wide receiver. And then we have all the players on the defense, JTT, Jack Sawyer, plenty of talented players in the secondary, linebackers, like every bits and pieces. And sure, everyone said, okay, we have Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, the two best players on each side of the ball. That's enough, right? I was worried about the 20 other starters that are going to be on the field. You throw in the fact that you were missing your offensive and defensive coordinator out of the building. Poof, gone. And so I look at this and I see, oh, you got Penn State. They're coming back. They're going to have everybody. You got Texas on the schedule as well. I like Washington. And then you haven't been able to beat Michigan. This schedule, in comparison to most Ohio State schedules, looked pretty damn difficult. So what I didn't foresee was somehow Caleb Downs, who is still an incredible player, first round pick, top 15 pick in my eyes, top 15 player in the NFL draft. Somehow Ohio State's going to have a player that's better than him. Arvell Reese, Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, and their duo is the best in the entire country, as expected. What I didn't expect was the fact that Julian Sayin is going to break the completion percentage record in all of college football for a single season, and the fact that they're going to be able to just dominate anybody without a consistent running game, and maybe even their pass rush. There's still some question marks there. It really doesn't matter because they're going to be number one in points per game, yards, points per play, in red zone for all these defensive statistics. If you go look up their rankings nationally for defensive statistics, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, because they're that damn good. Matt Patricia has done a fantastic job with them. So, hey, I threw my pen on the ground. Right hand up. I'm a dummy. Clown nose. I don't care what you do. I was wrong. This is the problem when you go and sit in front of a microphone and you just start chatting. I was wrong. It was the classic you're overthinking it take, because frankly, yes, you could have easily said, well, we're one of the best talent rosters in the entire country. We have been just stacking number one class, top 5 class, all these different things. But even in 2025, I didn't think that it was possible to be able to reload a class like this. And frankly, the real take that's just baked in there, we need to have some uncomfortable conversations about where Ryan Day will land as an all-time great head coach if they were to go back-to-back, because it's still to be seen if they do that, though that they're the clear favorite in my opinion. Ryan Day, I mean, this is a masterclass from him. I am so impressed by his work because, frankly, there was so many people just beating the drum of saying he's not going to win a national championship. He can never do it. And understandably, he still has to get the Michigan monkey off of his back, but the ability to lose all of those talented players to the NFL draft, not just talented players, but experienced players, and your team gets better, that's breaking my brain. That is a true masterclass of a head coach, because it's not just a guy that is going to call plays and is a wizard on the field. A head coach in 2025 for college football is a CEO. You have to be able to hire the right guys. He did that. He trusted Brian Hartline to be the offensive coordinator, and he trusted Matt Patricia, who a lot of people wrote off as a bad coach because of what happened with the Patriots and the Detroit Lions and all this other stuff. He trusted him to be a defense coordinator for Ohio State. The defense gets better. He has been able to bring in guys like Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin and be able to use the transfer portal and build a roster like this. I understand he took over a Ferrari. You still get credit for driving it like a damn F1 driver. I don't know what to tell you. This is my formal apology to Ohio State. I was wrong, and call it an incredible jinx. But as much as I want a victory lap on my correct tapes, Houston, we'll talk about Houston on Thursday. I was wrong. I was outright wrong. So what? Take my apology. Take it or leave it. Call me a dummy. Say I don't know ball. That's all I'll say. Lastly, we'll talk about Oklahoma and Bama, but got a self-plug, shameless plug. This is the Stadium Pulse. We are going to be live on Thursday, same time, college football. Simple Sugar is going to be the same exact thing every single time you look at this. That's the schedule. I do this for simplicity's sakes. I could say it's a college football show. Go check out all these different socials. No, I want you to stay right here and I want you to check out the page. That's all I'll ever ask from you. I'm not asking for your debit or credit. I'm asking for your time, which you could argue is a little bit more valuable. Number 12, Oklahoma. Playoff chances on the line. Are facing off against the Alabama Crimson Tide, number 4 team in the country, 2:30 Central Time. This is a very similar spot to what we were talking about with Texas and Georgia. A team that is in a make or break spot in their season. You could argue if they go 9-3 with how they finish their year, they could make it to a college football playoff chance. But this is definitely a must win for them, or at least keep it close. Both Texas and Oklahoma struggle on the offensive side of the ball, has had some quarterback issues for different reasons, obviously, and their defenses are incredible. Both have to go on the road into a hostile environment. Alabama, Georgia. This is a very unique spot. So what do we think? What did I write down? Well, number 1, I said, what team needs it? Oklahoma. It'd be nice to have for Alabama. Oklahoma's secondary versus Alabama's passing attack is the key to the game. We've seen two very different performances from the Oklahoma secondary. You have the Ole Miss game, to which you saw a break in the armor. You saw a little opening that a talented play caller and quarterback in Trinidad Chambliss, and you have Lane Kiffin. They were able to exploit some areas within the secondary for Oklahoma. Then they have to go on the road. They play Josh Heupel, a really talented play caller, versus a guy in Joey Aguilar who can't create with his legs as much, more similar to the archetype of a Ty Simpson, but Ty Simpson's much better in not putting the ball in harm's way. So you get a unique dynamic of, yeah, you're not going to have to worry about the scramble ability, but you're also not going to have the gimmies that Joey Aguilar was giving you during that road test against Tennessee. And because the reason why I focus on this is you're not going to have the problem of worrying about a rushing attack, whereas Tennessee, they want to run the ball. They want to, force you to make a decision between Chris Brazzell and Mike Matthews on the outside, or do you want to stack the box and try to stop the run? That's why Dylan Sampson ran for 30-plus touchdowns last year. They want to run the ball. You have Ole Miss, who's a very dynamic RPO-heavy offense. You're going to have an Alabama offense. It's just not going to run the ball. They're not going to do it. Yeah, you're probably going to be able to stop them. They're going to get to a point where they may not even try it unless they're up by a ton. Although I do believe they should be leaning more heavily into a guy like Daniel Hill, who I think is a very talented running back. I want to throw some stats out there for you. Oklahoma, number 8 in third down defense, 26 in explosive play defense. Alabama, 18th in third down offense. And I believe they were one of the top explosive play teams in the entire country. I didn't write that one down. That's on me. Put my hand up. That's on me. But I wanted to double click into the third down because I think that is going to be the key thing that is going to give Oklahoma as many opportunities. I think Oklahoma needs to spread this game out. They cannot have this be a fight in a phone booth. They can't have this be a limited possession where John Mateer's not touching the football as many times as possible because their offense is not as efficient. Very similar to Alabama, they are not going to be a team that runs the ball that effectively unless you get the John Mateer legs game, which I wrote down as my next thing. You need the John Mateer legs game. This is where you do not shave off any type of, restrictions to the rushing attack. You need a very similar performance to what we saw with Michigan, where he is just running up the middle for 20 carries. I mean, this is going to be the game where you're going to need to create something on the ground. And I think if you're able to get Alabama off the field, you're going to give John Mateer and this offense as many opportunities as possible because you can run the ball in this Alabama team. But if you're in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, their pass rush has seen some progression over the past couple of weeks. And we saw them find some success against an LSU offensive line that has been bad all year. Guess whose offensive line hasn't been great all year? Oklahoma's. This is the game you need to create something. If it's Barnes, if I'm remembering correct, Robinson, you need something in this rushing attack. And I think John Mateer's the guy because when you're in this make or break point into your season where you need this game to happen, you got to create something. You got to throw the kitchen sink. And I think this is where you go to Ben Arbuckle. You go to John Mateer. You say, listen, this is the most healthy you're going to be. And we need this game because it's not just we might get in if we're 9-3. Our fate is not in our hands at that point if we were to lose this game. And they're not thinking about this. They're just thinking about how they can beat Alabama. But if we're looking at the broader picture, it's not just we might be 9-3. We could find a way in. We will also potentially be fighting against a 9-3 Texas team that beat us, and they're going to take precedence over us. So if we can find a way to be 10-2, then we can start having those conversations. Alabama continues to skate by. They felt like a team that could have beat LSU 38-10. It was only 20-9. And there was a couple of moments where these explosive pass plays were right there. I think that this Oklahoma secondary is going to make or break this team. Plus, as well as the rushing attack for Oklahoma. It's a tough spot. I picked Texas because they needed it. This is a team that needs this win. Oklahoma needs this win. But do I believe Oklahoma has enough tank left in there? I think Oklahoma, this is a tough matchup, man. This is an Alabama team that is going to be running into a quarterback. I just think of the archetype says found success against this Oklahoma defense, and they're going to be at home because Trinidad Chambliss went on the road and found success, and he was able to create a little bit with his legs. And I think Ty Simpson can create a little bit with his legs. It's not something that is the trademark Ty Simpson play style. What is trademark to him is a guy that's not going to make mistakes. Even though I've always said this, Brent Venables makes seniors look like true freshmen, I don't think this is the game that we see Ty Simpson put the ball in harm's way. I think a team like Texas A&M, I think a team like Georgia, in even a rematch, would be a very difficult matchup for Alabama. I think there's parts of this Oklahoma team that play to Alabama's strengths. And unless you get a one-night special, this is John Mateer playing his best ball. We get a Deion Burks breakout. Isaiah Centena takes a 75-yarder to the house and creates some explosives. I understand that, but I think if this becomes a game where you're going to need Ty Simpson to be methodical and not create a ton of 20-plus yard plays, but a lot of 15, 5, 10, 7, 8, those types of plays, that plays into his strengths and plays into Ryan Grubb and how he can create this offense. Very similar to what we saw for Georgia. And that's where we go back to the point of, can Oklahoma get them off the field? And I don't know if they can. I'm going to pick Alabama to win. I got to pick an upset between these two teams. So I'm going to pick Alabama to win. I don't think that they cover. I think this is going to be a one-score game. And I think we're going to be looking at Oklahoma in 2026 as a big-time team that could be a not only college football playoff contender, but national champion. That's all I have for you guys today. 40-minute show. I didn't feel great about the Monday show, I'll be honest. I don't think I did the best prep that I could. I wasn't as articulate on a lot of my thoughts. And so I always try to make up for it on the next show and give you guys a more energetic, fun show and things to talk about. So I understand we don't have everyone in the chat talking. So it would mean the world to me if you just see a 5-second clip of this show. If you watch a medium form content, just give this an opportunity. That's the only thing I'll ever ask. 5 seconds of your time. Check out the page. If you like college football, you're going to have more college football on your page if you just click the subscribe button. That's as simple as it is. A lot of people will check out the show. Analytics don't point to the fact that you guys will click the red button. I'll only ask that. No debit or credit information. That's all I'm asking. So I appreciate anyone who gives this show an opportunity. With that in mind, I will see you guys next time for Thursday, where we'll be talking a couple more games and game previews for week 12 of college football.